It ain't safe, 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 it ain't safe. So in any case, here we go. Chapter 18. Before I get started on today's program, I just wanted to say thank you all for riding with me for so long on this show, and just in general in life, to each and every single person who has supported my calling by my God. I just wanted to say a huge, gigantic, special thank you to those few who have been called by God to ride with me, to ride this storm out with me, and to be my right or my left hand, man or woman, throughout this entire war, spiritual warfare. So I'm very grateful to the few people that I have had that have supported me. And if I've given you any hell, just understand that that was not my intention. This war is hell, and it's redefining hell. And I'm going to go ahead and review some of what this hell entails. So, Chapter 18, Overview of Harassment Methods Used by FBI's COINTELPRO Operation Gladio, Covert Community Recruits. Covert Community Recruits. And so for everybody that gets covertly recruited within the community, the only thing that they end up actually taking away after this war is like a drug addiction, a sex addiction, for participating, for helping the FBI target innocent civilians like myself, enemies of the state. The only thing that I've ever noticed that participators of this occult, this 666 content, this death cult, and this rape cult, the only thing that they've ever been able to actually take away for participating was never that money, was never that job, was never those fake friends or that fake family. The only thing they ever possess afterwards, after they participate in these rituals, is a drug addiction or a sex addiction. And usually they're on the streets. So don't think that whatever it is that these green berets, red berets, black hats, red hats, gray hats, whatever it is that they are trying to tell you, whatever it is that they're using, whatever bait and switch incentives that they are using or employing to get you to participate. Typically, ordinarily, because my parents, both of my parents have participated in these rituals. Usually you get your children taken away and your kids go to CPS. You end up with nothing, essentially. That's where I'm headed with this. So they will lie and get you to harass individuals. They will recruit you, this FBI, whoever it is that's responsible for these crimes against humanity as it stands. So far, it's the FBI, the government. Once they recruit you and you participate in these rituals, you end up with nothing. You no longer have the job. You're not that big of a boss. They were manipulating you the entire time so that you could participate in these rituals. So you end up fired, homeless, strung out on drugs, a sex addict, but with nobody there to provide for your needs. And so on and so forth. So the only thing that the people who participate in these rituals end up taking away, if they themselves do not belong to one of these powerful families, is nothing. The only thing they take away is nothing. That's the takeaway here. And so, what is the point? Where is the thrill? If there's a covert group of community recruits that serve as an army that's trying to harass covertly a targeted individual into taking their own life, which is exactly and precisely what is going on, then where is the thrill that comes with the kill? You can't boast about it. You can't brag about it. If I take my own life because you harassed me or coerced me into doing such a thing, there's no glory for you. There's no thrill for you or all of the many of yous within this death cult. Which I think is really, really interesting, because this is all being done for the thrill, for social currency, for promotions, and for money and incentives like sex and drugs. That is what these sellouts are actually working for incentives like sex, porn, and drugs. That's not a real job. That's a career criminal. So in any case, it's really interesting investigating all of the people that are responsible in pushing this agenda, and watching how my family reacts has been priceless. Well, everybody already knows that both of my parents are sellouts. They would literally sell their own children to the government if it meant that they got to eat for free, that their meal ticket was free. They would traffic their own children, kill their own loved ones. They would throw them under the bus, you name it. Any number of things they would have already done and have already. It's only by the grace of my God that I'm still alive. I didn't survive every single thing that a hater has done to try to end my life, just to get to this point where now these haters want a cheap thrill and coerce me into taking an action that would end my life. First of all, I'm never going to be as miserable as the rest of you all sitting behind your keyboards. Please understand that. I'm blessed enough to know that I don't need a job like the one that you need. I've never needed that. Never. Quite frankly, I don't understand why so many people need jobs. I've survived my entire life without it. And I don't have any support. The support that I have now was never there for me as a child. I recently just so happened to make and gumption up that little tiny bit of support for myself. Thanks to the work that I do here on this program. Thanks to all of the evil that I expose here on this program. Doing the Lord's work here on this program. So in any case, the first thing in order for them to successfully run this depopulation agenda, in order for the FBI to covertly recruit the community into this army that's going to harass these targeted individuals to death and coerce them into taking their own life. And I'll get there. One of the things that I realized is how long my show is and how informative it is, and how most people have never had a single family member or friend deliver them such a message with so much information and powerful truth. So in any case, I'm really proud of the work that I've done here on this program. And also, it kind of goes without being said that these covert community recruits, these covert narcissists, these covert psychosadists that participate in these rituals, that use their job titles to abuse and harass targeted individuals. First of all, what would they be without that job? Nothing. What would they have if they didn't have that bag, that money? Nothing. They have not made a name for themselves, so certainly not a name. They have a code or a number that is assigned or given to them when they get hired to do these jobs. And they're not real assassins either. I think it's so funny that people in the community glorify assassins. This is not that either. This ain't that either. So they're not assassins, okay? Harassing somebody and coercing them into taking their own life doesn't qualify you as an assassin. If you yourself have never been hired to murder somebody else, you're not actually an assassin. Anyways, I don't glorify none of this. This is all the devil's mess. And that's why these devils are so angry, because of all of the amazing work that I do here on this program, on this suicide prevention campaign for fostered youth. So in any case, like I said, I didn't go through everything I went through just to get brought here and to have a bunch of nameless nobodies try to coerce me into committing suicide because I don't have a family, because I don't have a job. I didn't need it. I didn't need it to change the world. Why do you think people need what you have? What you need is not needed for the chosen child of God. What you have is not needed for somebody who was called by God. Please stop. Go smoke another bowl of meth or crack, or take your little antipsychotic cocktail medication, whatever it is that you need to do, so you can forget that this is what you're all about right here. So in any case, everybody has not forgotten. I'm sitting here doing the Lord's work on today's program. What I have realized is how necessary technology is in order for them to usher in this depopulation, alien, demonic agenda. So technology and tech devices are needed in order to run this counter-proliferation targeting program for depopulation. So in any case, it makes sense, perfect sense to me, why everybody went out as soon as technology evolved. And now everybody is the proud owner of a cellular device or some sort of smartphone or some sort of smart device. Excuse me. So obviously there's some sinister agenda going on, and that's why the government feels the need to have everybody addicted to technology. Makes perfect sense. So in any case, I realized that I have to break these chapters down for the readers and the listeners and the viewers, because apparently me reading this whole thing makes me sound like I read like a 3-year-old. By the way, I don't know any other than my own son Silas 3-year-olds that know how to read. If I was a 3-year-old that could read, that would qualify me or classify me as a genius, which is the truth. Only geniuses change the world. So, in any case, to continue, Chapter 18, Overview of Harassment Methods Used by FBI's COINTELPRO, Operation Gladio, Covert Community Recruits, and Stay Behind Armies, or Instruction Manual for Community Gang Stalkers. So, Chapter 18 consists of 9 parts, 9 sections, which I'm going to just show you briefly here. This is all factual information. You can do the research on Google for yourself. And you can fact check this. This is all true. This is all true. So in order to continue the war, in order to keep this covert, they have to continue this war. So everything becomes a war. It becomes a war for the cellular phone device. It becomes a war for my relationship. It becomes a war for parking, quite literally. It becomes a war for classism. It becomes a war for jobs. It becomes a war for air, which, by the way, we all breathe the same air. You're all inhaling and exhaling Libra's air. Okay, that's my air. It becomes a war for life, for everything, for every essential that you need to survive in life. Every single song in Hollywood is about this right here. Every single movie in Hollywood is about this right here. Every ad in your algorithm is about this right here. Everything in your algorithm is simulating this right here. This psyop, this psychological war. So within this chapter 18 that you are more than welcome to look up for yourself, there are 9 parts. Number 1 is general. I'm going to briefly go over them really quick. Number 2 is surveillance. Number 3 are intercepts. Number 4 is the physical sabotage. Can I help you with something? Number 5 is going to be sabotaging the target's reputation, and this is all needed in order to oppress. So the target is not able to call or phone anyone for help. Number 6 is going to be discrediting the target. Number 7 is going to be trade-related punishment. Number 8 is target's home. Very important stuff in number 8. Probably the bulk of it is going to be within that part right there. Number 8. Oh, the CIA loved me so much for reviewing this. The FBI love me so much. They're protecting my life because my life matters. And they're doing it because I'm reviewing this to the general public. You see how long part 8 is? Longer than my life, girl. Dead. It's really interesting to see how the trade-related punishment is applied as torture and how so many people within the community harass these TIs so that they can take their own lives. Basically, more or less coercing them to take their own lives. Like literally, if you want the torture to stop, you have to kill yourself. That's the name of the game here. I just think it's so funny that I'm going to outlive every single one of my haters. And I'm going to be able to watch how they lose their jobs, how they get fired. That's what they get. That is justice. Wow. All right. And then, of course, number 9. Part 9, which is going to be other tactics. It's somewhere in here, but this part 8 is so long. Here it goes. All right, so part 9, other tactics. You guys are more than welcome to research this for yourself. I'd never try to control anybody. In my opinion, trying to control somebody is losing the battle before it even starts. So those that are participating in these rituals, trying to mind control misfortunes for these targets, they're losing the battle before it even starts. And these targets are going to live longer. They're going to outlive their haters, and they're going to be able to sit on the sideline and watch as each and every one of these attempts go by the wayside. All of these attempts to try to have somebody commit suicide are not effective. They're not working. I mean, how many words truly become inadequate when you try to describe how much failure a suicide squad feels when they can't get their target to become suicidal? Words become so inadequate. When a rape victim gets on YouTube and tries to describe and express their hatred towards all rapists, pedophiles, and traffickers, words become so inadequate. So in any case, Chapter 18, Overview of Harassment Methods Used by FBI's COINTELPRO, Operation Gladio, Covert Community Recruits, and Stay Behind Armies, or Instruction Manual for Community Gang Stalkers. So one of the things I wanted to mention before going any further, one of the first things that this suicide squad or the FBI does is hack the device in order to put social engineering malware, which is what you're going to see in the news. Every single thing that you see pop up is satire. It's mocking me. Everything that's going on, these are meta models. Donald Trump and Elon Musk, these are called meta models. They're simulating the psychological operation. So this is done. If you don't know one of the words that I said, Google it. Study it. Use it in a sentence. Spell it. Okay? It's not that difficult. There's no excuse for your ignorance. Okay, nigga? So in any case, this is all done so that they can facilitate an electronic holocaust. So when the target is praying, they're mocking it. Look at this. Which, by the way, agents of Satan, they don't pray. It's jealous because it doesn't know how to praise and worship God. It's so dead set on trying to cancel my voice because it's so jealous at its 8 to 10 hour job doing nothing but punching keys on a fucking keyboard, boring as fuck. And it is so jealous that somebody like me, somebody with my horrible, rancid, trash attitude, could be called to worship lead and sing. What? So jealous that it wasn't blessed, that it doesn't have any talent. By the way, their version of talent is somebody who knows how to lie really well. That's their version of art. So every single thing that you see that pops up in this algorithm is social engineering malware. This is done to facilitate an electronic holocaust. These are all meta models. They're all lying. They're all liars. And this is done to also profile a specific targeted individual or targeted audience. This is done to simulate and to stage a synthetic mental health diagnosis. These are synthetic schizophrenic hallucinations. This is a synthetic voice of God technology. So let me ask you a question. If this is a synthetic voice of God technology, then where does the real voice of God come from? Because there's got to be a real one. If there's a synthetic one, then there's got to be a real one. So all of this warring that you see in the news is actually just a mock parody of what's taking place in my house. So in any case, all of the sports is fake sports, fake sports athletes and fake sports news. This is all what's occurring in my household. And it's mocking that trauma. It latches onto that trauma and then it mocks it in the news. And it does this as well as in the comment section. So the people who are responsible for running these psyops are the same people responsible for covering this cover story so-called news, which is fake. They're the same people that you see in the comment section. And what they are doing in these comment sections, it's called directed conversation. It is staging a synthetic electronic holocaust and a synthetic mental health diagnosis or disorder. So part 1, general. Operations in general are of the, quote, active surveillance type. And that includes domestic espionage, domestic servitude, hacking, phishing the devices for information, and then using that information to slander. Active passive surveillance is watching a target covertly to obtain information about the target. This information about the target will be used for a counter-proliferation targeting program. So this private information that is obtained about the target will be used to blackmail and blackball, to harass, and to perform directed conversation, which mimics schizophrenic hallucinations, which is what you will see in the news. That's all it is, in the comment section as well. Active surveillance can include information gathering, but it also includes the agent making the target aware that they are under surveillance. Beyond active surveillance, agents perform acts to keep the target uncomfortable around the clock. Although operations are silently approved of and covered for by the official justice system, they are not seen as criminal in nature by citizens who do not have a strong sense of right and wrong. So that would be a conscience. You lack a conscience. See how it minimizes and trivializes the lack of conscience or consciousness itself? Because this is an entire psyop that is a war, that wages war on the psyche, profiling the psyche. So this is a war on consciousness, and people who don't have one are the ones recruited. So this is why having dissociative babies, governments need babies to be born dissociative so that they don't have a conscience, so that they can be useful idiots and promote this agenda. Okay? So in any case, y'all don't have a conscience. Y'all are sanitized of a conscience. You're too afraid to even think for yourself. That's how scared you actually are. When you're out here talking about how you're not scared, you're so afraid. You don't even have a conscience because you're so afraid to even think for yourself. So that means you don't know the difference between right and wrong. So 80% of the people that are living within these communities, 80% of them are socialized sociopaths that lack a conscience, that are too afraid to think for themselves, and they believe that they're safe because whoever sanitized them of their conscience also somehow made them believe that they would be safe. While doing all of this warring, it's just not possible. That's why police officers get gunned down in the news every day. Now the news does the best they can to make sure this never leaks. However, like I just said, police officers get gunned down every single day. You know why? It's because they don't have a strong sense of right and wrong. Because if they did, they wouldn't be police officers in the first place. It's because they don't have a conscience. It's because they're lacking. It's because they don't have an authentic voice of God. That's it. They don't know right from wrong because they're godless. They don't have a conscience because they're godless. Okay? There's no authentic voice of God for them. There's just a synthetic voice of God, which, as it turns out, is omniscient and satanic. Insidious. Doesn't have your best interest in heart or in mind at all. And when you're done acting like you're better than everybody else, when your target finally falls off the roster, you're going to get fired. Because that is your karma. Your wife or your husband's going to leave you for somebody else. Because that is your karma. This only lasts until the target is done. When I cease to exist, the rest of you all also cease to exist. You see how funny that works? So in any case, it's really interesting to see how they do all of this for the thrill of it. Where's the thrill if I commit suicide? You don't take the action. You don't get the credit. So where does the thrill come then? Not only that, but once I do cease to exist, you also cease to exist. So where's the fun in that? And every single thing that your handler brainwashed you into believing you're going to see is a lie. Before you take your last and final breath, you will realize how much of a fucking sham your life really was. And how it was all for nothing. Every word you spoke about me and every action you took towards me was for nothing on your behalf. Because you don't stand for any sort of movement whatsoever. A death cult for dads? Okay, first of all, please stop. Nobody is going to even be able to know your first name. There are criminals in the penitentiary that get more recognition than this death cult will ever get. That is their karma. Agents must take great care that each and every act of punishment is deniable. This means that should the target complain to police or any other officials or friends, neighbors, family members, or doctors, the nature of the punishment must be seen as the target's, quote, overactive imagination, or better yet, an indication that the target is mentally ill. So with the gift giving, it also becomes a form of directed conversation. And by the way, if I read like a 3-year-old, that 3-year-old is a fucking genius. Because I personally, other than my own 3-year-old that actually does read like a genius, because he gets it from his mother, I don't know any 3-year-olds that read. So that would mean I'm a genius. And that's correct. It takes geniuses like me to change the world. The system has worked for years to recruit the medical establishment. This is really sad because I was just in there on Tuesday and they denied any association with this. The lady that was in there doing my whatever it was that she was doing, the nurse, the registered nurse, and the doctor, they said that it's not them. It's the police. So in any case, I was injured again on Tuesday and had to go to the hospital. And the doctors that were in there, they said it's not us, it's the police. So it's the police that are having these TIs admitted into the hospitals, not the doctors themselves, although it is the psychotherapist that is responsible for creating a campaign that will slander and destroy a target's life. And this is done using these devices, hacking them and then taking the information and then weaponizing that information, whatever secrets. This secret that they obtain after they hack the device, and then they use that secret to perform street theater. This is what they call narrative exposure therapy. This is how they're shocking. Okay? That's the electromagnetic shock therapy. When it's done in person, it's just shock therapy. It's called narrative exposure therapy. Now, at this point, with every single person recruited into this within the community, the family, the home, and so on and so forth, they're all responsible for distorting. So there's nobody is like getting off with clean hands. You know, you cash the check that you got from work, but just know that there's blood on that. All right? And not just my blood, but the blood of several others that also died and lost their lives fighting this war. Okay? So you're all complicit as far as I can see. I don't see not one person willing to lose their job and do the work that I do. Nobody is innocent except for myself. Okay? And it's because of the work that I've done, because I've chosen to lose my job, be beaten and battered, and so on and so forth. You all can see it for yourself. There's no need to rehash it. And go toe-to-toe with these fucking trafficking police. And go toe-to-toe with these trafficking doctors. And then just for them to turn around and say, it's not us, it's the police. You know what? At this point, here we have the truth. It really wouldn't matter because the truth is right here. So the system has worked for years to recruit the medical establishment to help maintain deniability. And today, most targets are immediately labeled as mentally ill and often forced onto antipsychotic medication when they complain. So anybody gaslighting is a Nazi, a white supremacist, terrorist, Nazi. Does not matter what their skin color is. They work for Donald Trump. They work for Elon Musk. Donald Trump and Musk are both Nazis, okay? But their agents must still do their part skillfully to perform acts of punishment so that almost anyone the target complains to will deny a crime against the target has taken place. So this also explains why denial runs so deep, because it's being perpetuated by these occultists. As an agent, you will be trained in how to do this, and this is called reframing or gaslighting. It takes the form of many different things. You can scapegoat, you can call it scapegoating, you can call it victim blaming. It's all an occult practice. The system has been blessed with advanced technology, which enables heavy punishment. At times, the target is in their home, silently through walls, and this is very deniable. So like when they say you have unlimited data, but then they slow your data down. This would be them. This is what they're talking about. This is punishment, deniable punishment, of course. And when it gets caught, when I actually have caught these things so many times, like subtly trying to coerce me into committing suicide via text, and it feels so stupid. It feels so stupid. Like it would never do that. It has such an amazing job. It has such an amazing life. Why would it waste its time? And then you see the evil inside of it just totally take full front altar. Woo! Damn, it is so psychotic to watch these things when they get caught trying to coerce their target into committing suicide via text. And then it tries to act like it would never do that. It just, yes, you would. Yes, you do. Yes, you are. Stop trying to lie. Like, what the fuck? We're beyond that point. We've passed the threshold of denial. When these crimes are committed and they're overtly being committed, there's no covert actions being taken anymore. So we've passed the need for denial. We've surpassed that threshold. There's no need. You've been caught red-handed. And so anyways, that's what this program is dedicated to, exposing this. So in any case, to continue, agents must pass their initial training and demonstrate a high level of commitment to maintain. By the way, the pastor is complicit in this. The doctor, the police, teachers, everybody in the community is contacted by the FBI and recruited so that they can participate in this. So nobody in the community is innocent. Not one person that a targeted individual goes off on is innocent. Not one. The only person that is innocent is the targeted individual. Every single person getting paid to pretend like they hate me doesn't actually hate me. And these are the same exact people that will try to talk about my story long after I'm dead. And they will say, she was an amazing artist. She was a revolutionary. No, you weren't saying that at the time, dumb fuck. Stop lying, devil. It lies for attention. It lies for money. It lies for promotions. Come on. Agents must pass their initial training. And by the way, everything it has, it owes to the less fortunate. Every single thing that it has, it doesn't actually own. Thank God it's all temporary. It's going to die with nothing. It owes nothing. It owns nothing but restitutions. That's what it owns. Okay? The fuck? Michael Jordan is ugly as hell with his bald head. What the fuck? And doesn't even have any game without that money, and that social status is lame. That man couldn't he couldn't take me out on a date. Michael Jordan, without his money and his status, if he had to pay all of his restitutions and had nothing left, he wouldn't be good enough to take me out on a date. Okay? Not one of these traffickers is better. They're not good enough. That's the truth. Besides, he's not even handsome enough. The fuck? And I'm talking about inner beauty. I'm not even talking about what you can see. It's not always about what you can see. Sometimes it's about what you can't see. In any case, agents must pass their initial training and demonstrate a high level of commitment to maintain community safety. And so the safety of the community comes at the risk of making the target's life unsafe, perpetually unsafe. So if your safety comes at the expense of me not being safe, being hurt, ill, and injured, let me tell you something, Santa Claus. You're not as safe, okay, as you might think, as you want to think, as you would like to think. You're never going to be as safe as you would like to think that you are. So long as my safety is jeopardized, so long as there's breath in my lungs, Santa Claus, you're not safe. Agents must pass their initial training and demonstrate a high level of commitment to maintain community safety, and the ability to operate deniably before they will be considered for advanced electronic punishment training. Electronic punishment training is beyond the scope of this manual. So although this manual is so long, it's taken me 2 to 3 years to fully cover it all, and I'm still not even done. Let me just remind you all, dumbasses, that this is not even the full scope. So when these targets go to jail, they're waging electronic warfare against them to have them conspired against. Then they go to court. The judge doesn't know a lick about technology. There's no way to prove. If it wasn't for this show that I'm doing, there'd be no way to prove that all of this electronic harassment is occurring. All of this sexual exploitation happens via electronic exploitation. Thank God I'm doing this program. Otherwise, there would be no way to prove in court. It's just their weaponized science, which computer science is a science, okay, against whichever one of their agents of Satan that you probably had to were forced to kill, were forced to murder, were forced to go head toe-to-toe with a gladiator style. Okay? That wasn't even an option. You were forced. Now you're in prison. Now I'm going to be in a fucking psych ward somewhere because I was forced. Okay, Santa Claus. Talk about some fucking crazy ass bullshit. Everybody that belongs to this death cult needs to be locked up forever for their crimes against humanity. That includes the doctor. That includes the police. What? Why not? They're not crazy narcissists. They're not tyrannicals. They're not tyrants. What the fuck? Why not? They're not mentally ill. What the fuck? Why not? No, they are. They are. They just operate to a completely counter book of laws, book of reasoning, book of whatever. Just, it doesn't make any sense. What's illegal for me is not illegal for them. So, and it is because they're all doing it. Again, because it's an occult practice. Because once they've all participated in this, then, you know, the cops can't arrest them all, right? Just like there's no point in me murdering any one of these agents of Satan because I'm not going to be able to kill them all. It's impossible to kill a whole city of people. It's not possible. And if you can't get them all, then what is the fucking point in gunning down one of them? There is no point. It's pointless. Besides, it's already got an expiration date thanks to my creator, God. It's going to die. Why do I need to waste any of my time thinking about that, dwelling on that? It's going to die. It's not going to live forever. It's not. Nobody does. So the fact that all of these enemies are trying to coerce me into committing suicide, it just goes to show that not only what I'm saying is true, and I can sound however crazy I want to sound saying it, because it's the truth. And it bothers them. It contradicts their criminal narrative. So in any case, agents must pass their initial training and demonstrate a high level of commitment. So I just don't mean to burst your bubble, but the people that are involved in this are not your real friends. They will conspire against you faster than they will conspire against public enemy number one. If you think for 1 second that these are your real friends, you have been completely mind fucked and mind wiped. And when they do finally terminate you wrongfully, or just whatever it is that they do, this is what they do. This is what they quite literally get paid to do. You're the dumb one that trusted them when you were instructed not to. If you would have listened to me when I told you to leave that job, you wouldn't have to worry about being fired because I already told you to leave. But in any case, they're there just to brainwash you into believing that they're your friends, and then they're there to conspire against you. And so that's your fault if you believe that they're worth the effort and they're your real friends, because they're not. So they're demonstrating a high level of commitment so that they can be able to operate deniably. And they're going to conspire against you as well. And they're going to do this in a way that's completely deniable. The organization is very fortunate. No, it is not. Everyone working for this organization is cursed. Just look at their face. They're ugly as fuck. Damn. The organization, even like the most beautiful one, is still ugly. How? How? Because it's evil. Duh. The organization is very fortunate in that we have been able to recruit top specialists to back up field operations people. So the reason why they're so cocky and confident when they're out here warring with the public enemy, number one, when they're out here cocky and confident, it's not real cockiness. It's not real confidence. They have people backing them up. Those people will get shot too. If you want it, you could get it too, bitch. Psychologists are the key to finding ways to maximize feelings of stress and hopelessness in the target and degrading the target's health from many individual, quote, minor invasive punishment acts. Okay, nigga. Technicians in all fields, telecommunications, electric, power, building, electrical and alarm systems, and utility employees in all fields use their positions to inflict many absolutely, quote, normal-looking problems on targets on an ongoing daily basis. And of course, the services of many skilled locksmiths are invaluable in this. As a community-based agent, CBA, you will have the privilege of working with a team capable of delivering better, quote, justice than the official system. So what is a private justice system needed? If there's a private justice system, then what is the official justice system needed for? So the official justice system needs to be abolished, and this private justice system needs to be abolished as well. Both of these systems need to be protested against. Instead of watching so much porn, maybe you should get a protest sign and take a real stand and be brave and be actually brave and have real courage and protest on behalf of real innocent people's lives that are being lost due to these wars that are being waged for the entertainment of those system operators that are bored, pushing pens and stroking keyboards all day long at work. They're not better. Y'all are going to be at work bright and early tomorrow morning. Guess what? I don't have to deal with any of the stress that comes with being a fucking gang stalker. None of it. The disappointment that comes if you don't participate. Boo-hoo! The guilt that comes when you do. You don't win, ever. A gang stalker never wins. Ever.